Thanks for joining the Life's Better podcast, where we say life is so much better with God, community, and purpose. On this month's episode, we are going to be continuing a conversation that we actually began last month, which is how do we successfully follow Jesus over a lifetime? And if you're new to the podcast, or maybe you just didn't catch last month, or you're just forgetful, we looked at last month really 3 choices that we need to make in order to again, be successfully serving Jesus over a lifetime. And so as a review, the first one is you need to follow Jesus. You need to actually make a daily pursuit of Jesus a priority in your life. And then the second one was actually to embrace the pain, because pain is part of the, do you remember?
The process.
The process. We like to avoid it. We like to run from it. We like to even maybe point a finger at God and say, hey, you made some promises that I wouldn't have to ever deal with anything painful, and so I'm going to stiff arm you. But that is actually not what God has promised, and sometimes we just need to embrace the pain because it's part of the process of growth and maturity. And then the third, we talked about how it's important for us to actually be leading our families to love the church. If the church is the body of Christ, then it's so important for not just us as a parent or as a grandparent to really love the church, but to actually teach and train our kids to do the same.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be actually discussing 3 more choices that we need to make in order to be successfully serving Jesus over a lifetime. But before we do, we're going to play a game, and it's one that I think you'll enjoy playing along with Josh. I'm going to be kind of the game master here a little bit.
I'm nervous. I'm really bad at these normally.
This shouldn't be too hard. This is 50-50. We're going to be playing a game of true or false. And so I'm going to be asking Josh some true or false questions based on world records.
Yeah.
And some of them are going to be weird and crazy. And so it's like, is that true? Is it not? And I'm hoping, we've got 10 questions. I'm hoping that you will be able to, you'll be at least able to get 7.
Ooh, okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like that.
I don't know much about world records, so we'll see.
Yeah, some of them you may have heard before. I think other ones we're just gonna have to okay, is that too weird? Or wait, is it just weird enough? Like someone had to have done it.
I talk myself out of the right answer all the time. Yeah.
All right, so you ready for the first one?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's go.
True or false? There's a world record for the world's strangest diet.
That's really
So vague.
Yeah. Sure. I'll say true.
True is a correct answer.
Okay.
So there's this dude named Michael Letio. He's from France, and he has eaten some crazy things. Get this. He's eaten an entire airplane, 18 bicycles, 15 shopping carts, 6 chandeliers, 2 beds, a pair of skis, a computer, and a coffin.
No.
Yes, bite by bite, he has consumed all of these things. Now the plane itself was one of those little the propeller driven. It wasn't like this jumbo jet.
That's still insane.
But crazy, right? Piece by piece, he's eaten all of those things. Yes, it's absolutely true.
Oh my gosh.
All right, true or false?
Okay, weird.
You got it right
What a
though. You
weirdo.
got it right. I know, totally weirdo.
Sorry.
True or false? There's a world record for eating a McDonald's burger every day for 50 years. For 50 years, a McDonald's burger.
I believe that's. I'm gonna say true.
You're going to say true.
I don't know about 50 years, but I know from the movie documentary Super Size Me that there was a dude who every day for basically a long time ate a Big Mac every single meal.
That's the guy that holds
the same guy?
record. Yes.
I knew one.
His name is, let me get this right, Donald Gorski, I think.
And he wasn't super out of shape.
No.
Based off the way I saw him.
You would think of very obese, and he was just kind of like this average-looking dude, kind of hippie-looking from what I remember.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So as of 2021, so it's even more now, he has eaten 32,340 Big Macs.
And he does that just one meal a day, right? Or is it
Sometimes he'll go back for multiple meals, but for 50 years, he's been chowing Big Macs. He's spent at least over $100,000 on just the Big Mac.
I think that's the hardest thing for me to understand is how do you have the money to do that every day? Because McDonald's isn't that expensive, but Big Mac meal, That's that's like a $10 meal.
And granted, he started back in the 70s, so who knows? Maybe back in the 70s it was only like 75 cents.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, inflation and those things, it was probably fairly equivalent.
We
you
need
know
to
what I mean?
check in on him, see if he's still able to afford that now.
Man, I want to know what his like arteries are looking like these days and those type of things.
I don't know.
I don't either. I don't either. All right, so you're 2 for 2. Great job so far.
Let's go.
True or false? There's a world record for being the oldest gamer in the world. Video gamer, oldest.
That just seems really, really vague. I'm gonna say false for that
Okay.
one.
Okay. Too vague.
Yeah, and I'm two truths in a row. That's
Playing the math.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. This one is
one's
actually true. So
how
there's this
old?
woman in her 90s.
Okay.
She's from Japan. She has 150,000 subscribers to her YouTube channel. If you want to check it out, it's called Gamer Grandma.
Gamer grandma. Okay.
Yeah.
She's the oldest gamer.
Yes.
And that again, same thing with like the weirdest diet. It's like, how do you? It's.
I know. I don't know if this one made it into the Guinness Book of World Records, or if this was just like some weird gamer, community. Like, yeah, she's old. I don't know.
She's a gamer.
I don't know. Yeah.
What constitutes a gamer?
I know. True or false? Number 4. There is a world record for the quietest clap.
That one has to be false.
Quietest clap.
That's so dumb.
Like, how could you actually rank that one?
Yeah.
Good job. That is
Okay,
correct.
okay.
There is a world record for the loudest,
That makes sense.
but not
That
the
makes
quietest.
sense. Man.
Number 5, true or false? There's a world record for the longest pillow fight while riding a pony.
I hope it's true. I'm gonna say true.
This one's
That sounds
false.
so.
It's false.
That sounds so cool.
I know. I would have thought that one was true as well. Who knows? Maybe someone's gonna get an idea and say it's gonna be true after I get a hold of this one. Okay, number 6, true or false? Someone holds not 1 but 2 world records for gaming. Going back to gaming.
Okay.
Without ever using their hands.
I believe that.
Okay.
I believe that. I'm gonna say it's true.
It is true. If you want to check out this gamer, he goes by the name Rocky No Hands.
Okay.
And he had an accident. He can't.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the use of his arms.
Yeah.
But there's cool controllers that you can use with your mouth. And
It's
that's what
really
he's been
cool.
using. Have you seen it?
I've seen some of those controllers.
I have not.
It's really neat.
Okay. Is it like a lot of tongue and lip and?
It depends on what the person has.
Okay.
But they'll like make special controllers for all kinds of people. People
That's
with
cool.
no arms or legs like have the ability to still play games, and I'm like, you're playing better than I would at that game. How is that even possible?
It's nuts. It's nuts. I know. I'm at this point. My boys are all better than me at almost every video game, and it's like,
Does that hurt
why
a little bit?
A little bit. A little bit. What hurts, and I've shared it before. What hurts is when they beat me at like in my opinion, like skills sports. It's like, oh man, that's what's even
fair.
harder. Okay. We've got number 7 here, true or false. There's a world record for largest collection of refrigerators. Largest collection of refrigerators.
I'm gonna say false.
That is a correct answer. Well done. That is not true. Someone else is out there going like, but there's gonna be, I don't know. Has it been 2 that you've missed?
I've missed 2.
Okay, you can only miss 1 more and still achieve the goal. So you're on track.
Okay.
You're on track.
5 and 2. 5 and 2. Right?
Yes,
Yeah,
number
5 and 2.
8, true or
Doing pretty
false, there's a world record for the most toilet paper rolls balanced on the head.
good. Okay. That feels real. I'm gonna say true.
It just sounds right. Like that's something someone would do. Yes, that is true. Any guesses as to how many rolls?
Oh man, 8.
101.
No way, what?
101.
They're not attached to each other.
Well, no. Well, no. You mean like duct tape or anything
yeah.
like that? No.
Really?
Yeah, no. From what I read, the guy who did it was on his way to. He had multiple goals for world records, and one of them was to break one a week. And so that was a world record in and of itself. And so one of the break it in a week was this one. And he said out of all of them that he did, this one was the most challenging. Believe it or not. I don't know what the other ones were, but this one was the most challenging according to him.
What?
Number 9. True or false, there is a world record for most grapes sliced. So grapes sliced, there we go, in the air with a sword while standing on an exercise ball in 1 minute. Yeah.
That was so descriptive. It has to be true.
It has to be true,
It
right?
has to be true.
It is true.
That's ridiculous.
Any guesses as to how many?
3. There's
59.
That's ridiculous.
59.
People have way too much time on their hands.
Every second. Can you believe that?
Okay. In my mind, it was 58 grapes at the same time.
No, I think it was one at a time.
Okay.
So it's
in 1 minute. That's the key
but
there.
still,
okay. That's still ridiculous.
59 is ridiculously good. Yeah. All right, last one.
It's like 1 per second.
I know. On a
For a
exercise.
minute.
I know. Stud. All right, last one. You've made it. Even if you missed this,
I've got it.
You've got it. True or false? There's a world record for the most balls juggled in space.
I'm gonna say false.
Because it's just like a cheat.
Yeah, and there's no gravity.
Yeah, so it might just like drift off type of thing.
How do you juggle balls in
Josh,
space?
you were made for this game. It is false. Correct answer. You got 8 out of 10. I don't think that's a new world record, but
Did you know?
Good all the same.
Just fun fact. I was a part of a group that broke a world record.
What was the world record?
It was largest water balloon fight.
Really?
Yeah, UK broke it, and then we got it broken by another college. But
Is
it was
that
while I
right?
was dating Emily.
Is that right?
I helped the CSF, the
Okay.
Christian Student Fellowship, had like an insane amount of balloons that they made
guesses as to how
over.
many?
It was like over 5,000 people participated, and the amount of balloons was
Like quadruple.
I don't know. They announced it. It was like
Was that
ridiculous.
before the days of the Instafill? They had to like actually.
You know, that was
hand do
in
it.
the early days of the Instafill.
So did they actually have some?
They
of those?
I think they got it halfway through making them.
Okay,
Somebody
is that
brought
right?
them and that.
Oh,
like,
that's funny.
They were like, "This is how we're gonna do
Why?
it."
Yeah. Why haven't we been doing it
Yeah.
for the past 2 hours this way? Yeah, that's cool. Well, I don't know if those of you who are listening are going to break any world records. I hope you are successful at all the things that you do. But even if you're not successful at breaking those world records, that doesn't mean you can't be successful at living and serving Jesus over a lifetime. And so we've looked at 3 ways that we can make some choices to actually lean into successfully serving Jesus over a lifetime. We're going to look at 3 more. So number 4 on our list is be honest about where we are vulnerable. So we need to be honest about where we're where we're vulnerable. This really comes from the idea that it doesn't really matter where you're at in your Christian journey. You can be a seasoned Christian of 50 plus years. You can be a brand new Christian. There are going to be times where you're just naturally more vulnerable to certain temptations. And if you give into those temptations, they can really derail you from making this a lifestyle over the long haul. And so we need to be sensitive to where we're vulnerable. And I think the difficulty with this is we don't like to deal with what we're struggling with.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we just want to act like it's not a problem and we don't want to share it with other people because that makes us vulnerable. But it can actually become a strength when we are honest with ourselves and honest with other people. I was watching an interview with Mike Tyson. I know Mike Tyson, he was big back in the 80s, so kind of before you. You're familiar with him and his legend, right?
Of course.
Okay. So Mike Tyson, one of the great boxers, particularly in the 80s, he seemed unstoppable. It didn't seem like anyone was going to be able to knock him out until, do you remember the first guy who knocked him out?
No.
Wasn't the only one. He was kind of this no-name individual. Buster Douglas was his name, and I think it was 1989.
That's a really good boxer
I know,
name.
isn't it? Isn't it? In the 10th round, he knocked Mike Tyson out, and it just shocked the world. A lot of rumors were spread that Mike Tyson hadn't trained for that event. Like he just kind of slacked off and didn't train, and he was just living this life of excess. And so the interview that I was watching, they wanted to dial in on that particular fight, and they asked him about those rumors, and Mike kind of shrugged and was like, yeah, no, a lot of that is actually true. I didn't train. And the interviewer was really quick to say, but Mike, there was money just like following you. Certainly someone had to step in and say, for the sake of their own wallet, Mike, you've got to practice. Why didn't anyone step in and tell you, live up to your potential? And Mike just smiled and said, you just don't know my personality if you think that was going to work. Because if I didn't like what you were saying, I'd just leave you, hop on a jet, and head to London. And I heard that, and it was one of those like, but it's one of those tragic things that I think is true for a lot of our lives when we don't like what we're hearing and we are feeling maybe a little off balance because of a struggle that we're in. Sometimes we just want to leave and we want to act like it's not a problem. But I think certainly in the case of Mike, a lot of people say that he could have had a much richer, more successful boxing career if he had been honest about where he was vulnerable. Hey, I'm living this life of excess. Hey, I'm feeling super lazy. I feel like I'm better than I actually am. Why don't I listen to these coaches and get the training, create the structures and really the system so that I can continue to succeed well? And I think in the Christian life, this is where we need to really take an honest look at ourselves and say, okay, where are we vulnerable? And what are some systems that I can place? What are some boundaries that I can place so that I don't even get close to that temptation? I don't get close to that maybe moral failure that would completely derail my successful pursuit of Jesus over a lifetime. When you think of like Christians who kind of blow up their lives, blow up their reputation, blow up their ministries, I don't want you to name any names, but who are the people that come to your mind? No names, but what is the stereotypical? Oh yeah, another one of them, fell by the wayside.
Ooh, like I don't know, like really big names, like like charismatic,
yes,
like people you wouldn't expect.
Those celebrity pastors back in the day, they used to be like the televangelist, and they got caught up in money laundering or whatever it is. Had an affair, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And certainly we're not like celebrity pastors, but I want to ask you the difference between these two conversations. Let's go ahead and imagine that I come to you, Josh, and I pour my heart out and I say, hey, Josh, I want to talk to you about something. I'm really struggling with some romantic feelings towards someone who's not my spouse. I need to talk about this. I need to deal with this. Or imagine this conversation, and I want you to tell me what are the differences here. What are the differences?
Yeah.
Let's imagine that I come and I say, "Hey, Josh, I've had an affair with someone who's not my spouse." Like huge difference, right?
There's a very big difference, yeah. And you're getting at something that's like something that a lot of people have to get to, which is I think it's written in James, which is the idea that like temptation gives birth to sin, but temptation is not sin, and you shouldn't feel bad for being tempted. Like the enemy is attacking you. Don't feel bad that that's happening. And in all honesty, I've told students before, like the fact that the enemy is attacking you is proof that God is in your life, because he doesn't attack like just anybody, like it's a good thing. Like you can know, okay, God is working because Satan is also working against me, and I'm recognizing that.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. Yeah. No, I don't know if that's an encouragement or not.
I think when it comes to even the idea of, our failings, we need to understand in the Christian walk, there should be tons of grace.
Yeah.
And there should be, even when I'm saying, hey, I've had an
up.
affair,
Yeah.
there should still be grace in that. But like a huge difference is, okay, now Josh is helping me pick up the broken pieces of a shattered ministry, shattered marriage, or Josh is now helping support creating some structures so that I don't blow up my marriage, so that I don't blow up my ministry. And there's a ton of grace in there too. I mean, in fact, if I were to come and share that with you, I mean, what would your emotional response be to me who's being open and honest and vulnerable with you?
Oh, are you talking about like the first one or the second one?
Yeah, not I mean, maybe both, but I'm saying the one, hey, this is a weak area.
I would be like, thank you so much for trusting that with me, and like I'm here to walk with you through that, and like there'd be a lot higher of a thought towards you than the second one where it's like, oh, he has to tell me this, like it's either I'm gonna find it out from somebody or he's gonna be the first one that tells me.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I'll give you like an example of this that's actually been in my life where I was in school, and I've told you this before, and I think I've talked about on this before as well. But in college, there was a point where I almost failed out. Like it was because I was not treating school the way I should, and there was a really serious conversation that I had with a trusted professor who I love, And that conversation would have been a lot different had I already failed out. You know, like
Yes, yes.
there's a difference between like catching it
Yeah, that
and
preventative.
admitting it before something drastic happens. You
Yeah.
know, and like it was still bad of me,
Sure.
but it would have been way worse to wait and have that conversation after. Sorry, you're out of school.
Yeah.
You know?
I like that you bring it up because, you know, when you're talking about like an affair, those are the big ones. And some people won't listen to you might be like, well, you know, I'm clearly not going that direction. So this can be for the small things. It can be the, hey, you know, where I'm vulnerable is I'm kind of lazy right now. I'm just wanting to take things easy. Or it might be, I'm just frustrated and annoyed with people all the time. And I know that Christ calls me to love people, what's going on in my heart, and being honest with yourselves and saying, okay, why am I angry? Bringing in maybe a trusted brother and sister in Christ. Say, like, I just feel this frustration, this anger boiling up. And it's like, okay, well, let's dissect this thing before you fly off the handle. You end up hurting somebody. They lose respect for you. Maybe you hurt your witness for Christ. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you eating right? Are you harboring some bitterness or some resentment that if you were able to forgive that person, maybe that would release this anger that's being built up in you? And so it can be in any area of our lives, but we have to be honest, say, okay, if we're going to serve Jesus successfully over a lifetime, where am I vulnerable right now? Where do I need to place some systems and some boundaries in my life so that this actually becomes a strength, not a weakness?
Yeah.
All right, that's number 4 on our growing list. Number 5, Josh.
Number 5 is to take care of your body, which you kind of were just touching on at the end of there. But I think all of us know that like it's probably a good idea to some degree take care of your body, but we're going to make the case that it is actually like a biblical and important thing for us that God wants us to do. And some of you might immediately hear that and think, okay, well, Paul tells me I don't have to. And you wrote this down, but in 1 Timothy 4:8, Paul says straight up that physical training is good, but training in godliness is much better. And so that means I don't have to do what I'm just going to train in godliness. Right. I don't have to train my body at all. I'm going to change that thinking just a little bit. And this was something that I felt convicted of multiple times in my life where I might have left, like, you know, not cared as much. You know, straight out of high school, I was in track and soccer, and so those kind of like, you know, and everybody knows when you leave high school, like, and you start to get a little bit older, you realize, oh, I can't do whatever I want in terms of eating and like just not practicing or anymore. And so I started to gain a lot more weight then. And it wasn't until one of my idols at the time, Jim Elliot, I was studying him. He was a missionary. There's this thing, you know, if you've studied Jim Elliot at all, is that when he was in high school and when he was in college, he was just dead set on following Christ with everything. And everything else he considered unimportant. And he just, like, he had a one-track mind when it came to God. And that's awesome. But he also was in track and he also was in wrestling. And when he was asked about that by somebody who was like, okay, you're telling people, like, you got to give up everything for God. You got to, like, everything you do should be a sacrifice to God who wants you to do. So why are you doing these things? And he told them that he did them to present his body as a better sacrifice to God. He considered wrestling and track as prep work for the mission work that he was going to do so that he could keep his body in such a way that he was able to do whatever God called him to do, which is insane, like, to think about that way. And that convicted me heavily. And a verse that has helped me, because over the last 8 months, I've made it a huge commitment to, like, okay, I need to make sure to take care of myself. I realized I'm 29, I'm almost turning 30. Now I'm 30. But at the time when I was making these commitments, I realized, you know, I'm starting to feel knee pain. I'm starting to feel pains that I've never felt before.
Right.
And I'm not able to have the endurance that I did. And I don't want there to be a time where students are wanting me to hang out with them or stay up late or do all of these different things, and I have to tell them no because I can't. You know, I don't want that to happen. And so,
especially prematurely.
Yeah, especially
like if you're
prematurely.
95,
That makes sense.
I think we may give you a pass on like.
I'll find another younger dude to do that. But at 30, like, I should absolutely be able to do these things. And so 1 Corinthians 6:19-20 came to mind, which says, "Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You are bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your body. And that to me, it goes back to like the Jim Elliot thing of, if I am a temple, if I am a sacrifice, like a living sacrifice presented to God in Romans, then I need to make sure that that sacrifice is pure, is holy. And like this is quoted directly after he's talking about sexual sin, which is also important to make sure that you're dealing with. But like, how can I take care of my body to make sure that that temple is holy in terms of what I eat, in terms of the exercise that I'm making sure I'm getting, in terms of the sleep I'm getting, even in terms of the way that I treat it. You know, am I doing extremely dangerous things just because I want to? You know, like and not saying that you can't, you know, have fun and do stuff, but like, are you protecting yourself the way that God would want you to?
If you're going to go the distance, you've got to be able to, you know, pace yourself in a healthy way. Otherwise, you'll end up breaking yourself too early.
Yeah.
Or, you know, going back to McDonald's guy, you might be clogging those arteries and you're not able to do the things that God's called you to.
Yeah, and I think that helped me because in a totally selfish way, like when people were like, "You need to take care of you for you," I'm like, I don't care. Like you know, like I you know what, I don't need to, you know, look at like I used to deal with a lot of that like self-image problem. I'm not gonna fall down that rabbit hole again. But this was different this time because I'm not doing it because of how I want to look. I'm doing it because of what God can use me to do, if that makes sense. And so that is a heavy motivator when it comes to exercise now. I look at it as a time to physically train for what God wants me to do, not because I want to, you know, have a six-pack and impress.
Flex on your senior high school students.
Yeah.
You call that muscle? Check this. That would be pretty awesome, though.
That would be, you know, the ripped youth pastor.
All right, so when it comes to successfully serving Jesus over a lifetime, there's lots of different decisions that you can make. And I would challenge you, even as you're listening to this, if one of them really resonates with you, like we're not saying, hey, you need to go game busters on all of these. I would say just select one. Select one that you can begin developing and working on. In fact, you know, going back to the, hey, where am I vulnerable? Like if something like was in your mind and you're just like, oh yeah, I know, I've been keeping this in my back pocket. I've been holding on to this one and I don't want anyone to, like, stop listening right now and spend some time with your Father. Spend some time confessing that before God. Find a brother and sister in Christ, confess it to them, and create some systems. If you're thinking, oh man, you know, it's March now, and I had some commitments when it came to my, you know, physical. Like, just get back on it. Like, if you've taken a misstep here and there, just say, okay, well, this is a new week, and I'm going to go ahead and start eating and exercising right. The problem isn't, you know, missing a day or two. The problem is missing, you know, a lifetime and causing yourself to actually pull yourself out of the things that God has called you to prematurely.
And remember, it's a lifetime too, because I think a lot of people make that commitment of I'm gonna work out, and then they do something really, really heavy that first day, and then they wake up the next day and they're like, I can't do that ever again. Like, do something small and work your way towards something bigger.
Yeah. So. All right, we've got a sixth choice that you can make, and this one is live and lead with financial margin. So when we are talking about financial margin, we're talking about making sure that you're not in debt, that you have some savings. If you want to burn yourself out, if you want to create all kinds of stress and anxiety, not just in your life, but in your marriage, if you want to actually hear about some wonderful things to give to build God's kingdom, but be unable to do it, well then live with no margin. Live with thousands of dollars in debt. But if you're really wanting to make an impact on God's kingdom, you have to live with financial margin. Now, in January, we did a sermon series entitled Breathing Space. And the last message in that series, we talked about having breathing space when it comes to our finances. And this is exactly what we're talking about when it comes to financial margin. And the way I articulated it in the message, the sermon, was this is what financial margin sounds like, or in that case, this is what breathing space sounds like. It sounds like, oh, I've got so many bills to pay. But that's okay, because there's more coming in than there is going out. That's what margin feels like. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like a married couple kind of looking at each other and saying, you know what, we're looking at our bank account. We actually might be able to help our kids with their college tuition. It sounds like, I heard about this need in our community.
Yeah.
I heard about what these missionaries are doing in another country. Our church that has put so much spiritual emphasis in our family and has created so much value for us. You know what? How about we support them? And we can because we have the margin to do so.
Yeah.
It even sounds like, oh, wait, I didn't expect that financial emergency to come up this week. Oh, wait, the roof is leaking. We need to replace the roof. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so much money. But that's okay because we have financial margin we've saved and we'll be able to take care of this emergency.
Yeah.
Now, when you hear that, isn't that where we all want to be?
Yeah. Yeah.
We want to have this. Now, as I talk to folks, particularly those who are struggling with debt, one of the things that I say, and I think it's probably really frustrating to hear it, but I give them my 2-step approach for getting out of debt. And I think this is also appropriate when it comes to having financial margin. And I'll just be real honest with them. Okay, I get it, you're in the red, you've got some major debt. There's 2 ways that you can get out of this. These are really the only 2 ways that you can get out of this debt. Number 1, you can make more money, or 2, you can spend less. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes it's a combination of the 2 that really allows you to get out of debt. And outside of, winning the lottery or some weird, Ponzi scheme that probably gets you into further debt, I don't know if there's another way. You either make more money or you spend less. And again, it may be a combination of the 2. Now, if you're hearing that and you're like, you don't know my situation, Jonathan, I didn't cause our family to get in this debt. It was my spouse. He just kept spending. Or, hey, you don't get it. I'm already working 5 jobs. I'm not going anywhere with this. Yeah, I get it. Those 2 steps, it sounds almost insensitive because I don't know your story. And so I would strongly encourage anyone who's just, I need margin. I don't know how to have it. I would strongly encourage you to go to the library and check out The Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. This has helped millions of people find financial freedom in their life. Dave's a guru. He walks you step by step into how to have this margin in your life. But without that margin, there's going to be things that God will actually call you to, that Jesus will actually put on your heart. And if you don't have that margin in your life, you're not going to be able to step in and say, okay, let's serve in this area.
Yeah.
And so don't miss that opportunity. Final thoughts?
I was just going to tag that and say, for both of these last 2, I remember growing up, there'd be people whenever money, hey, you need to take care of yourself in terms of money, or hey, you need to work out and stuff. There'd just be this negative of we don't really need to talk about that in church, type of thing.
Yeah.
Let's focus on improving my spiritual life. But just like you said, what we're really talking about is being spiritually responsible with the things that you have and the possessions that God, ultimately your body, your money, everything is God's. And if you're not being responsible with those things, that's an irresponsible spiritual decision.
Yeah.
And just like you said, those small things that we can tell ourselves, oh, I have to have this, whether it's, that extra ice cream or those extra reoccurring things that we're putting on our TV each month. Those things, oh, I have to have this, or I have to watch this, or I have to participate in this, or I have to go and spend $50 at this restaurant with my friends. It's okay, those are good, those are fun, but what is the best thing that I can do with this money, or with my time, or with my money? And I said money twice there, but the whole idea there, I think that we have to retrain our minds and say, okay, these are not just extra. It isn't my spiritual life, and then there's my health and my finances. It's all of it is God's. And how can I honor God with those things, and how can I be responsible with those things?
Yeah, I love that. Well, I would encourage you, I would even challenge you to say, okay, today, no more excuses. No more excuses. If any one of those 3 or the ones that we talked about last month just resonate with you, maybe a conviction of the Holy Spirit, I'd say no more excuses. No more excuses. And the reason why is because your life, it's way too valuable. And your God is way too good, and your calling is way too great for you to spin your wheels not actually achieving the things that God has created you to achieve in the service of Christ's name. And so no more excuses. if it requires being honest and open about a struggle, if it's, okay, I need to get back on the treadmill, if it's, you know what, it's time to actually take responsibility for my financial choices, as your calling is too great not to.
Yeah.
Until next time, don't forget that life is so much better with God, community, and purpose.